having a studio in an art school is really quite different to having a studio, you know, on your own. When you're in an art school, there's this incredible buzz, you know, there's this incredible energy. So I think in that sense, it's definitely been an adjustment and a change, but one that I've really loved. But also you get a bit of both, because when the students are away, you know, you sort of have the campus begins to quiet down. But also just the workshops, the access to the workshops, you know, those are things that you just don't have in your own studio. So for me, coming to Cardiff Met, the Foundry was a really big pull. Just because, well, they're rare, they're especially rare in art schools now. But yeah, I think it's just been amazing to sort of have access and also the expertise of the technicians to be able to work alongside them and really sort of delve into the material properties and the research. There's nothing really quite like it. It's an intense experience in every way, but one that I've really, you know, loved my time here doing. But yeah, I've loved it. It wasn't something I used in my practice massively before, but that is purely down to facilities. And also just the availability of, you know, these workshops around the UK. They're sort of dying out. And I think a lot of that actually comes down to the fact that foundries aren't in art schools anymore. So with that, like, you lose the knowledge. That knowledge doesn't get passed down, which is a shame because, like, it's a beautiful material. It comes from the earth and goes through all these amazing industrial processes. And I'm really drawn to materials like that. I'm drawn to materials that have this sort of elemental shift, this sort of physical, chemical change. You know, to see something solid turn into this molten liquid, it's totally mesmerizing. Yeah. I'm not a tutor. I'm not a student. I'm sort of in this liminal space. Yeah, I think my experience of going to art school, you know, it changed the entire course of the rest of my life. So it is, I guess, you know, in one way, I had a lot of really influential tutors and influential people around me. So it's nice to think that you could be in a position to maybe give some of that back. Cardiff has an incredible DIY art scene. People here are just really friendly. I've been really lucky to spend some time with a few different organisations here. I've sort of become a little bit more acquainted with them since starting the fellowship. I think for me being here, like, it's really nurtured a different side of the work that I'm looking into at the moment. Performance being that main thing, and this performative aspect of things being live and immediate and ephemeral. Yeah, that has definitely expanded what I thought this fellowship would entail. I thought that there would be more of an emphasis on the physical object and fabrication and making, and that's kind of naturally twisted me or turned me on to focusing on the writing a little bit more and focusing on perhaps how those things can become sonic material too. And that's developed into this performative sort of realm that I'm interested in. But we're going back into this academic year and it's going to be really different because we have so many modules lined up, and for me this is quite an interesting way of thinking about my work, but also in this collaborative way with the students and their input. And I think a big part of being an artist is you learn through doing, you know, you learn through making mistakes and experimenting, and that only becomes richer when there's more voices and more bodies in the mix. So I'm really looking forward to the students being back and having this time and seeing how that sort of changes the practice too. This campus is just located in such a beautiful spot. To be able to just sort of skirt out the back, walk through the fields, through a cemetery and get to this amazing cathedral, that's certainly not something I'm used to. So yeah, I've loved it. I'm someone who works quite slowly and I enjoy that. So a lot of these concepts that I've been thinking about, you know, they've been brewing for some time, and I think a lot of the reasons why artists struggle to make work is because you don't have time and you certainly don't have money. So to have the time and space and that financial aid it's a huge privilege. I think in terms of the direction of the work, a lot of it feels really new. And a lot of it feels really terrifying because I'm looking at performative aspects of, this live aspect of performing and how performers store things in their bodies. And that is endlessly interesting to me, but it also feels very foreign. But I think given the opportunity and given this cultural ecology that exists here, it just seems like it's the right place and the right time to really focus on that. And it's happening organically and naturally. It's in equal measure new and terrifying.